Anthony C. Frattone will tell us more about the difference between a republic and a democracy. He will point out why the Declaration of Independence is so important to our Constitution. And in light of today's world order, you will be amazed that Mr. Frattone gave the following talk not this past Flag Day, but on June 14th, 1982.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like just a few moments of your time to tell you how I feel about Old Glory and our nation. We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, and in the next breath we say we are a democracy. History tells us that only decay can result from a democracy, because it is nothing more than the raw law of man without the refinement of God's direction. To understand the difference between the two, simply put, a democracy puts everyone under the rule of that monster known as the majority, where the minority has as much chance of survival as a snowball has in hell. Whereas in a republic, everyone is put under the protection of God's law, and that is a beautiful way to live. Chiseled in stone on the Jefferson Memorial in Washington, D.C., are the following words by Jefferson. "The God who gave us life gave us liberty. Can the liberties of a nation be secure when we have removed the conviction that these liberties are the gift of God? We must keep our republic alive if we are to remain free and a sovereign nation. Do not allow an age-old failure, a democracy, to replace our great republic and our beautiful flag." The following words of advice were given by Abe Lincoln. "Now, my countrymen, if you have been taught doctrines which conflict with the great landmarks of the Declaration of Independence, if you have listened to suggestions which would take from its grandeur and mutilate the symmetry of its proportions, if you have been inclined to believe that all men are not created equal in those unalienable rights enumerated by our Charter of Liberty, let me entreat you to come back. Return to the fountains whose waters spring close by the blood of the Revolution. Think nothing of me. Take no thought for the fate of any man whomsoever, but come back to the truths that are in the Declaration of Independence." Fellow American, let us unite on this memorable day in confirming the fact that Old Glory stands for a republic and not a democracy. Let us stand up for the truth and the promise that is rooted in our nation's birth certificate, the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Let us today dedicate ourselves to the understanding of the American heritage and do all we can to preserve it for the generations yet unborn. Let us dedicate ourselves to root out internal sedition and put the enemies of our republic where they can no longer do any harm to these United States of America. And in closing, ladies and gentlemen, so that America can be, spend a little time each day for our country by reading and studying the Declaration, and make certain it will not become a dead letter. It must be preserved as the guide and common denominator for our Constitution and Bill of Rights. I repeat, without the Declaration, our Constitution and Bill of Rights will have no direction. It is the cornerstone of the American heritage, and without it, our Constitution and Bill of Rights will have no profound basis. Let us preserve the immortal emblem of humanity, the Declaration of Independence, so that we can have life, liberty, and the right to happiness under law, and Old Glory will have her place in the sky above. Ladies and gentlemen, as a postscript to what I have already told you, I feel duty-bound to read to you the information contained in this pamphlet. Quote, "In Philadelphia, on July 4th, 1776, our founding fathers signed the Declaration of Independence. In so doing, they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, so that we might have the freedom that we so often take for granted today. On United Nations Day, October 1975, the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia made a mockery of this cornerstone of our American heritage by unveiling a declaration of interdependence, virtually calling for the repeal of our own Declaration of Independence. The Interdependence Document proclaims, 2 centuries ago, our forefathers brought forth a new nation. Now we must join with others to bring forth a new world order. It claims that mankind must free itself from the limitations of national prejudice, and that we have a moral obligation to strive for a more prudent and more equitable sharing of the resources of the earth. That is to say, America's resources should not be ours, but the property of all the nations of the world. A Declaration of Interdependence also calls for the immediate reduction of the eventual elimination of America's nuclear weapons under international supervision, and the placement of our processes of production and monetary systems under regulation by international authorities. You would think there isn't anyone in this great land capable of regulating its own affairs. Further, so that these goals can be reached, it supports the strengthening of the United Nations and its specialized agencies and other institutions of world order. Certainly, any freedom-loving American familiar with this document should soundly condemn it, or so one would think. On January 30th, 1976, our nation's bicentennial year, a delegation of United States congressmen representing 124 senators and representatives journeyed to Philadelphia, our nation's birthplace, to endorse and sign a Declaration of Interdependence. Regardless of whether or not they understood the true significance of their action, these congressmen, in effect, endorsed the abolition of the very country to which they had sworn allegiance, the United States of America. Think about it, because the enemy never sleeps, but oft times we find ourselves asleep at the switch. Wake up, America, wake up. Danger is quite evident. The termites are working overtime. I am going to end this short address with the following words composed by George Washington in 1794. Let us unite in imploring the supreme ruler of nations to spread his holy protection over these United States, to turn the machinations of the wicked to the confirming of the Constitution, to enable us at all times to root out internal sedition and put invasion to flight, and to perpetuate to our country that prosperity which his goodness has already conferred. Amen. Thank you.
Flag Day, June 14, 1983. Anthony C. Frattone addressed an audience of 2,000 at the Johnsville Naval Air Station in Warminster, Pennsylvania. His remarks are most meaningful and truly American in every sense of the word.
Thomas Jefferson, author of the Declaration of Independence and co-author of the United States Constitution, said, "I know no safe depository of the ultimate powers of the society but the people themselves. And if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with a wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it from them, but to inform them." And with that thought in mind, on this memorable day, Flag Day, it is fitting that we review what Old Glory symbolizes. Our flag represents a republic, not a democracy. The Constitution of our beloved country says so. I have here a document from the Government Printing Office in Washington, D.C. It is a training manual for citizenship, prepared under the direction of the Chief of Staff, dated November 30th, 1928. It defines democracy as follows. Democracy, a government of the masses, authority derived through mass meeting or any other form of direct expression, results in mobocracy. Attitude toward law is that the will of the majority shall regulate, whether it be based upon deliberation or governed by passion, prejudice, and impulse, without restraint or regard to consequences. Results in demagogism, license, agitation, discontent, anarchy. Democracy is the direct rule of the masses and has been repeatedly tried without success. Our constitutional fathers, familiar with the strength and weakness of democracy, with fixed principles definitely in mind, defined a representative Republican form of government. They made a very marked distinction between a republic and a democracy and said repeatedly and emphatically that they had founded a republic. Now, who had the right to replace our republic with an age-old failure, a democracy? I was born here in America 75 years ago, and I have lived here ever since. And I have never been asked whether I wanted our republic overthrown for a democracy. And none of you have been asked that same question. Then who, may I ask, who are the destructionists that have sought to destroy our republic? And sad to say, they have done a pretty good job of it so far, because they now have practically everyone believing that our nation is supposed to function under the structure of a democracy. As I have stated before, the definition of a democracy, as described by the Chief of Staff in the Training Manual for Citizenship, that its attitude toward property is communistic, negating property rights, and sure enough, that is what is happening today. And you might ask, well, if we are a republic, why is it happening? My answer is no, we are no longer functioning as a republic, because you can listen to the President of the United States of America and hear him call our nation a democracy. And also the indoctrinational system that we so loosely call the educational department is preaching democracy to our youth. You know, all we need is 1 or 2 generations to be indoctrinated into accepting our nation as a democracy, and our great republic will be laid to sleep. Thank God there are remnants of our republic still alive and well. And my message to those destructionists who would destroy our republic is that there are many of us who don't agree what they are doing, and we are going to do all we can to stop them and restore our republic by climbing back up to the plateau of sanity and restore American independence now. Don't let anyone, including the President, convince you that we are a democracy, and don't let the modern dictionaries of today that have been revised to meet the political pressures of the day convince you that democracy is synonymous to republic, that it's just a matter of semantics, because it is not so. The structures of both republic and democracy are at opposite poles from each other. Democracies have been tried time and time again without success. The only thing that democracy can do to this great country of ours is to destroy the freedoms, property rights, and the right to seek happiness under law. It will lead you right into a dictatorship. This is why I stand here telling you what is happening. I feel it my duty as an American. I am shouting fire, ladies and gentlemen. The destructionists are at work. They have many documents all ready to put into action. They are just waiting for the right time. Don't give them that time. Read and study your Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the first 10 amendments. That is the original Bill of Rights. Most all the others that came after the first 10 amendments are nothing more than barnacles hanging onto the Constitution to put cracks in it, as some intellectual eggheads have already claimed that the Constitution has cracks in it. Frankly, the only cracks we can see are the cracks in their heads. Ladies and gentlemen, Old Glory is in pain. She's being abused and she's being set aside. Don't let that happen. Stand behind her. Otherwise, there isn't anything she can do for you. She will become a piece of cloth made up of patterns and colors, and God help us if we allow that to happen. I have a message from the representative of our great republic, Old Glory herself. Hear her, and hear her well. I am the nation. I was born on July 4th, 1776, and the Declaration of Independence is my birth certificate. The bloodlines of the world run in my veins because I offered freedom to the oppressed. I am many things and many people. I am the nation. I am 225 million living souls and the ghost of millions who have lived and died for me. I am Nathan Hale and Paul Revere. I stood at Lexington and fired the shot heard round the world. I am Washington, Jefferson, and Patrick Henry. I am John Paul Jones, the Green Mountain Boys, and Davy Crockett. I am Lee and Grant and Abe Lincoln. I am the Brooklyn Bridge, the wheat lands of Kansas, and the granite hills of Vermont. I am the coal fields of the Virginias and Pennsylvania, the fertile lands of the West, the Golden Gate and the Grand Canyon. I am Independence Hall, the Monitor, and the Merrimack. I am big. I sprawl from the Atlantic to the Pacific. My arms reach out to embrace Alaska and Hawaii. 3 million square miles throbbing with industry. I am more than 5 million farms. I am forest, field, mountain, and desert. I am quiet villages and cities that never sleep. You can look at me and see Ben Franklin walking down the streets of Philadelphia with his bread loaf under his arm. You can see Betsy Ross with her needle. You can see the lights of Christmas and hear the strains of Old Lang Syne as the calendar turns. I am Babe Ruth in the World Series. I am 130,000 schools and colleges and 320,000 churches where my people worship God as they think best. I am a ballot dropped in a box, the roar of a crowd in the stadium, and the voice of a choir in the cathedral. I am an editorial in a newspaper and a letter to a congressman. I am Eli Whitney and Stephen Foster. I am Thomas Edison. I am Horace Greeley, Will Rogers, and the Wright brothers. I am George Washington Carver, Daniel Webster, and Jonas Salk. I am Longfellow, Harriet Beecher Stowe, Walt Whitman, and Thomas Paine. Yes, I am the nation, and these are the things that I am. I was conceived in freedom, and God willing, in freedom I will spend the rest of my days. May I possess always the integrity, the courage, and the strength to keep myself unshackled, to remain a citadel of freedom and a beacon of hope to the world. This is my wish, my goal, my prayer in this year of 1983, 207 years after I was born. And so, my people, to close the case of republics versus democracies, we shall refer to our Constitution, Article 4, Section 4. It states, irrevocably clear and clean as follows. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a Republican form of government. Now, Republican in this context does not mean a political party. It is a form of government offered to Democrats, Republicans, and nonpartisans under the God-given rights of the United States Constitution. God bless you, and thank you.
Have you ever thought about the true significance of the Declaration of Independence? Anthony C. Frattone is a well-respected businessman in Hatboro, Pennsylvania, and is well-versed in matters concerning the Constitution of the United States. He points out that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are worthless unless the Declaration of Independence is followed as mandated by our Founding Fathers 200 years ago in Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution. At that time, the United States was founded as a republic. But every day we read in newspapers and hear on television and radio that the United States is a democracy. Not true. Our country was founded as a republic. Mr. Frattone, with a great love for the country, wants all Americans to know and appreciate that the United States remains a republic. So now here is Mr. Frattone with his talk entitled, Uphold the Declaration of Independence.
Uphold the Declaration of Independence. Abraham Lincoln, in 1861, delivered an address in Independence Hall in Philadelphia in which he confided, "I have never had a feeling politically that did not spring from the sentiments embodied in the Declaration of Independence." But most impressive of all are the words of Lincoln in 1856. "Now, my countrymen, if you have been taught doctrines which conflict with the great landmarks of the Declaration of Independence, if you have listened to suggestions which would take from its grandeur and mutilate the symmetry of its proportions, if you have been inclined to believe that all men are not created equal in those inalienable rights enumerated by our Charter of Liberty, let me entreat you to come back. Return to the fountains whose waters spring close by the blood of the Revolution. Think nothing of me. Take no thought for the fate of any man whomsoever, but come back to the truths that are in the Declaration of Independence. Do not destroy the immortal emblem of humanity, the Declaration of Independence. I repeat, uphold the Declaration of Independence. True, nature's God dictates that man reproduces man, but only at the behest of God. Furthermore, nature's God also dictates that man's liberty can only survive under God's law, which to deny is folly. Enslavement is the product of man and his law without God's refinement. And because God, with his infinite love, has given us the liberty to choose between his law or man's law, so be it that man chooses his own destiny. It is my hope that when I have completed my short message, all of you will understand the importance of the Declaration of Independence and return it once again into our vocabulary and to its rightful place in the structure of our republic. I hope that you will understand that without the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution and Bill of Rights will have no direction or profound basis. These facts must be known in your churches, classrooms, organizations, and synagogues. Let us set the record straight with the following truths. A government of the people, by the people, and for the people. A government to serve the people and protect the rights of the people. A Declaration of Independence stating the rights of the people, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. A war of independence was fought and won at great sacrifice, and the Declaration of Independence became the birth certificate of a new nation, America the Beautiful. Now, if everyone knows all this, why write about it? Because most Americans have either forgotten what the Declaration affirms, or they never understood it in the first place. The Declaration of Independence must be studied very carefully, because it is the cornerstone and the guide for the Constitution of the United States of America. Just a note to those legislators who are confronted with ambiguities in the Constitution. They will find that the ambiguities they speak of will disappear automatically by consulting our nation's birth certificate, the Declaration of Independence. Wise men and men who mean to abide by their oath of office know that all of us are directed to consult the Declaration in order to give meaning to our constitutional republic. Not democracy, if you please. See Article 4, Section 4 of our Constitution to know that our nation's founders wanted a republic, not a democracy. To protect the rights of the people, or, as the Declaration says, to secure these rights, a permanent government was instituted when the Constitution and Bill of Rights were ratified and signed. They were designed with directives to keep faith with a promise in the Declaration, and they established a structure of government designed for perpetuity. If we the people are to be protected against tyrants, the self-evident truths of the Declaration, that rights come from God, and that government's sole purpose is to protect man's rights, must never be forgotten by those whose high responsibility is to cast a vote in the halls of the United States Congress. If the Declaration is fully accorded its place at the helm of our republic, the Constitution and Bill of Rights will never be appealed to by those who would steer our nation off course. When the Declaration's mighty truths are given their proper recognition, our government will return to its proper role as the servant of the people and not the master. The Declaration is the filter against infectious diseases that stand ready to strike against our Constitution, as they already have done and will continue to do. Return the Declaration to its original role as the guide and director of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and America's greatness will once again be manifest for all to see. Remember that the Constitution does not govern the people. It governs the government, and it strictly limits government's powers. And the Bill of Rights does not grant us our rights. It states very clearly that the government cannot take from us those rights that are ours because God gave them to us. Because we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, the Bill of Rights proclaims that Congress shall make no law regarding God's gifts to us. We do not possess constitutional rights or First Amendment rights. It should be self-evident to all Americans that we possess God-given rights, and that our nation's founders who signed the Declaration wanted nothing more from government than that our God-given rights remain protected from any enemy or from any government, foreign or domestic. This is the essential understanding of the Declaration. No American worthy of the name should ever forget it. For if the Declaration's thunderous truths are cast aside, the vacuum created will be filled by the falsehood that rights proceed from government. Once that notion becomes widespread, as it is already, the people will acquiesce in allowing the government that supposedly has granted rights to limit them or cancel them completely. Remember, too, our Constitution should not be what the Supreme Court says it is, but on the contrary, it should only be what the Declaration will allow it to be. Yet we have allowed this court to ban the teaching of Almighty God's existence from the classrooms of our government schools. If God is taboo, then so is the fundamental article of Americanism, that rights come from God. We are a nation of laws and not of men. Bind the Constitution, the legislators, and the people to the protective chains of the Declaration, and we can, in the words of George Washington, root out internal sedition and put invasion to flight. We do not need a constitutional convention. We do not need more amendments. We need good and honest men in office who understand the structure of our republic and who will perform the past two house cleaning that has been needed for decades. Let us question the motives of the individuals responsible for the perversion of the Constitution, and let us thoroughly investigate the growing movement that intends to scrap our Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, and our Bill of Rights, and which seeks to replace them with a new Declaration of Interdependence, which shall be the common denominator of the new state's Constitution, both of which have already been written and are ready to replace our present documents. The enemy realizes the importance of our magnificent Declaration, and that is why they have written a new Declaration of Interdependence with an effort to negate our present Declaration. Unless we Americans understand the importance of our present Declaration of Independence, freedom will become a bygone dream. Americans, who will dare question the viability of a document that declares all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights? As for me, it shall be the Declaration of Independence as the common denominator for our document of laws, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. If not, freedom for Americans will surely shall perish, and we, too, will become slaves of government. I would like to remind our representatives and senators, the laws that you make today will one day come back home to roost on your own doorstep. Get on the safe side of the branch you're cutting, lest you break your necks and ours as well. Heed this admonition for the sake of our generation and generations yet unborn. It is fitting for all of us to realize that the Constitution and Bill of Rights are not independent documents. They, we, and future generations shall be bound by the protective chains of the Declaration of Independence for a nation of free men. Ignore the concept of the republic that our founding fathers formulated for us, and these United States surely will cease to be a free nation. There is no need to go on. In the final analysis, and if the order of the day calls for intellectual honesty, then it must be understood that the Constitution, as it is being interpreted today, was not written by the founding fathers of our nation. Oh no, it was not. Today, there is a host of usurpations of power that the Constitution does not allow. There is no constitutional authority for the existence of a Federal Reserve System that has taken away from us the right of coining and regulating our own money, thereby stripping us of the right of self-determination over our purse strings and decisions. It is believed by many that the Federal Reserve banks are United States government-owned. They are not owned by our government. They are privately owned monopolies that are immune from our laws. They are the power that controls our currency and its value, and with that power, they control our government. Not a very nice picture, is it? Nevertheless, it is true. There is also no constitutional authority for foreign aid, for involvement in and control over education, or for the government in Washington to meddle in agriculture, energy, housing, welfare, medicine, and numerous other areas. Wherever the usurpers of power have injected their meddlesome presence, they have made matters worse. They have cost the people billions of dollars, and they have converted millions of once free Americans into their dependent serfs. And they claim that all of what they are doing is permitted under the Constitution. What distortion, what dark treachery. The Constitution, as it is regarded today, is replete with the scourge of enslavement. Much of what is being done in its name has emanated from the bowels of aliens and traitors, spawned by the sometimes sincere, yet grossly misinformed and ignorant liberals who dominate our body politic. And now the liberals and traitors who have perpetrated this foul deed are doubting the viability of the Constitution that they have restructured. They are actually condemning their own treasonous works. They should be required to restore what they have perverted and not be permitted to wreak any more havoc. Hear me well, liberal and traitor. You both have created the attitude about the Constitution that exists today by negating portions of the original document and by injecting numerous amendments that came after the Bill of Rights. No American should question the worth of the Constitution in its original form. Let us instead question the refuse and barnacles that have been attached to it in later years as amendments. For example, the 14th Amendment's main purpose was to centralize power at the federal level and at the expense of state sovereignty. It gave impetus to the condition we see today, where once independent states that were loosely joined only for the purpose of mutual protection have become mere fiefs of a growing central tyranny. The 16th Amendment saddled our nation with Karl Marx's graduated income tax. Incidentally, it was never ratified, and it was foisted on the American people fraudulently. It is a law that never was. Until 1913, our federal government, still largely confined by the limits of the Constitution, was easily able to operate without any taxes derived from personal incomes. Now that it has usurped authority to take a portion of every wage earner's paycheck, its powers have grown to frightening proportions. We should see in all of this solid verification of the age-old truism: the power to tax is the power to destroy. Traitors and liberals of the past and present have corrupted the original Constitution of the United States of America that was fashioned to deliver to its people the promise contained in its common denominator, the Declaration of Independence. Do not allow the Declaration of Independence to become a dead letter. We must keep it alive for the sake of humanity. Remember also, our children deserve to be free. Let us uphold our nation's birth certificate, the Declaration of Independence, and restore the Constitution that our founding fathers gave us, so that we can put the liberals and traitors to flight and once again proclaim liberty throughout the land. Thank you.